All right, morning. Kicking off bike talk at NYC on this beautiful Tuesday morning. My bike is a little bit not, needs to be maintained. So it's sort of creaking. I don't know what this sound is. I don't know what is going on, but it seems like some of the gears or something. Maybe the chain, maybe the like chain casing. I'm not really sure. You can really hear it. Like, I don't know what's going on here. But it don't sound good. Honk. Honk. JCX 8285 in her Mercedes SUV. Honking because you probably can't see, but there's just a red light at the next block. Honking. Because important people have important places to be in their important vehicles. Anyway, yeah, it's like 68 degrees. We're here at West 110th Street and Morningside. Actually, so Morningside Drive and Columbus Avenue. This is where they become the same. The one turns into the other. But Columbus Avenue, of course, goes on the west side all the way down. I think it becomes 9th Avenue. Oh man, this thing is annoying. Complaining about the metal noises that are coming from the pedals. I think maybe this thing like fell or something, you know? And some part of the metal, one part of metal is like grinding up another against another part of the metal, because it's like not coordinated. Man, Jerry. Oh yeah, this is super annoying. All right, well, we'll do the best we can. We'll do it live. So we're heading south on Columbus Avenue. On 107th Street. There's the city bike dock there. This thing's super annoying. I'm just gonna keep repeating that over and over again. All right, what should we talk about this fine morning? There's some articles yesterday, this morning. Apparently a judge went out to, I guess, Fresh Pond Road, which is neither, like, there's nothing fresh or pondy about that road. It's just like a nightmare highway and car cesspool. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Squeeze right here. I'm gonna give this guy a C+. Good effort. Maintained a little bit of space, but like, come on, just outside of the buffer. The buffer is here for a reason. So a judge apparently took a walking tour of like 10 blocks where they want to add a bus lane, like a bus only lane, and remove the parking, car storage. We should never call it parking. The private car storage, free car storage I don't know, it's like 50 spots that are in question, and there's like a lawsuit. Meanwhile, we just had a climate march, right? And the mayor's like, we're going to do everything we can to you know, fight climate change and da, da, da. Meanwhile, we're having these like to get 50 car storage spaces replaced so that 5,000 bus riders, you know, per day can ride a bus. Like, it's literally the definition of, we need more public transit, we need it to operate faster, more efficiently. Oh, this guy's on his phone. EUR 8290 in his Jeep. Let's see if he looks. Nope, he's looking over there. He's just playing with his phone, but he probably looked as like, there's a red light, so I don't have to pay attention now. But that's what happens when you don't have protected bike lanes, because there are actually cyclists here too that you could be hitting. So yeah, so this is kind of the pace. So you're like, all right, if we need a judge and lawsuits and 2 years of appeals and whatever, for every like half mile of bus route that we want to improve. Dude, you have a red light. No, don't just flick. God, this guy's an asshole. If you want to make change, if you want to see progress, as the judge called it. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it, Uber. Please don't do it. Alright, I'm giving you a C- for that. You veered into the bike lane. You knew I was there because you passed me. And then you still jutted in anyway. No reason to do that. So, like at this pace, they're like, oh, maybe in 150 years we'll have some decent bus lanes around Queens, you know, because, you know, you just want to get a cup of coffee and don't want to be bothered by any transit people giving you tickets or transit cops. And you need your parking out front, because if you don't have parking directly in front for your private car, where you're driving, I don't know, a mile or half a mile to get your cup of coffee or your croissant from whatever the bakery is that was complaining that he's going to lose business with a pizzeria. Like, maybe you don't need so much pizza, maybe you need to stop driving so much. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that whole area should be fully pedestrianized. I think one of the problems that a lot of these areas probably have is that they just don't go far enough. So you end up fighting for these little scraps here and there. And it's these protracted legal arguments, and there's appeals, and I don't even follow all this stuff. And by the time it like gets through, you're like, this is, what are we even arguing about anymore? What is this project? When more sweeping changes, like if you made it really aggressive, you're like, we're gonna pedestrianize the entire west side of Broadway, right? Just the full pedestrianized. Kind of like the Central Park West bike lane, something like that. Like on that scale, it's pretty broad and sweeping. And that's why those kinds of things are pretty impressive. This project, this Fresh Pond project, sounds like it's just no parking for a very specific time period, like no parking between these hours. But then after that, you can go back in those lanes. And I think that's like, that's bad. There shouldn't be private car storage at all on what will become real like dedicated bus lanes. Assuming that this judge passed it. I think the judge did make a decision. It was in favor of the bus. Wow. That takes real, like, you know, real guts. And the judge like had this whole quote about at the end, talking about how he's also a car owner and he hates that there are speed bumps and red light cameras and speed cameras. Oh my God. These are the judges. Like, these are the actual people. Now, to his credit, he did pass, or whatever, he ruled, I don't even know, ruled in favor of the bus lane project, whatever it is. But like, it does not help anyone when even the judge is like, all right, fine, you know, this is progress and I don't like it either. That's what he basically said. It's like, God, these are the people who are going to dictate the future of the city and the design changes that happen. And yeah, no shit, it's gonna happen at the snail's pace because these nincompoops are all in charge. And they're afraid to take 10 parking spaces away. Sorry, car storage spaces away. They're not even spaces for cars. They don't even have lines on the street. If they had like I would be more inclined to be like, yeah, they are parking spaces, car storage spaces. If they had like lines and numbers, you're just like, all right, yeah, that is number 1, 2, 3 to 72. Those are the numbers, and they have meters associated with them, and they are, you know, then you could at least argue about the efficiency of them. You can see how much money they're generating. You can see how frequently they're being used. You could survey people. You really could take a more data-driven approach to curb management, but instead there's no lines on these streets. There's 0 lines. The assumption is just that in the absence of lines, it's all for car storage. And that's just nuts. I'm really curious to see if what we can just put on the curb, like legally. So, for example, if I wanted to buy a whole bunch of bikes and just put them on the curb, could I do that? What if they were really big bikes, like, you know, these cargo bikes, and they're big and heavy and they're not really, I mean, I don't know, maybe the police would confiscate them. Motorcycles are allowed, so what if you just had a whole bunch of motorcycles lining the streets? What if I put down, like, mats and stuff and put up some cones, and I said, look, I'm parking. This is parking. But my version of parking is parking without a car. My version of parking is parking with like a green, you know, AstroTurf mat that is, you know, 150 square feet with cones on the edges. That's my idea of parking. And a park bench, which is, you know, what parking used to be. Benches and trees. And I wonder, like, they do that. Transportation Alternatives did Parking Day, park-ing, where they did create sort of this space, which was interesting and super productive. I'm sad I missed that, but it looks pretty cool. And I wonder if you can just do that on the regular, like legally. Like, I don't really know what authority there is to, you know, if you're following alternate side parking rules, and you're like, all right, well, for these 2 straight days, I'm going to leave my mat and my cones in this space, and a guardrail, you know. That might be an interesting way to allocate the space. Certainly a lot easier to put that stuff down when there's room instead of, you know, having an actual car and trying to parallel park it. Oh, this is great. There's a vehicle on the path here. So, a little choppy out today, you can see, but boy, look at that sky. This is a painted sky. Yep, you can hear it now. These guys. definitely a vehicle that could kill a ton of people that made it onto here. Crazy part is it makes it onto here not because it has some authority, right? So in tons of cities in Europe, you actually see these kinds of things in action. You see you know, authorized bollards that retract. So basically you drive up and there's a bollard that's up sticking out of the ground. You wave your key card, the bollard comes down, and then the bollard comes on back up when you pass through. So you need some kind of access card. It's not, you can't just drive through it. Okay, now take this example. There is nothing like that here. There's simply this path. Take a look at this. If I can get up this goddamn hill. But like, look at this. A giant truck like that can enter this path, completely undermining the entire purpose of all of the cattle chutes and Jersey barriers, those big concrete barriers that are down along the greenway. Because look at this, there's zero protection. Car can just come right on down here, which I've seen just the other day on Saturday. I saw a car doing that. Driver, excuse me. Come on down here and then do whatever the F they want. Go right over there, go right over here, right? So here in New York, we're like so backwards with security. We have no idea what the hell's going on. So you have these massive gaps of security, but like you've closed off. It reminds me of, it's like a Trump wall. It's like Trump's wall, but it only goes like, you know, 5 miles out of the 500 miles. And the rest of it is just like open, you know, open road with like lines on it. It's like, well, right over here, guys. All you have to do is drive just on down the road a couple of blocks, like quarter mile down, plenty of room to get your vehicle in to do whatever you want. And that's just nuts. What they should have done is put up these retractable, they did such a lazy job here and very, very poorly thought out, which is basically the least amount of effort for a driver, but far more friction for all the cyclists. That's really boils down to just simply optimizing for drivers and not for cyclists. And here's how they did it. You don't see it here, but when you get down, they added bollards. But they put the bollards on the bike path with the idea that, like, oh, well, drivers can't then make a left or right turn, so they're blocked there. But the entire intersection, all of these intersections where cyclists are passing through regularly, are entirely open, wide open, for anybody to come off the highway and drive right on in. And even then you have gaps and stuff where there's actually, you know, half a block or whatever that's completely unprotected. And so what they should have done is put in retractable bollards at the face of the highway, right? So if you want to make a turn into this, you go into a turning bay. You know, I mean, it would take some real effort. It doesn't, you don't just put down some concrete barriers and call it a day, because that's a pile of garbage. That's not thoughtful. Certainly not permanent, but it seems permanent. And then you basically say, like, all right, you want to make a right turn? Fine. You have to flash a key card to get into this space. And then a bollard retracts, allows you to enter, and then the next car has to do the same thing. There's not nearly as much traffic that comes in and out, but when there is, it's incredibly, like, it's very dangerous, because then you're just playing, again, you're just doing intersection conflict games, whereas you're just playing chicken with drivers and coming off, you know, what is basically a highway. That would have been a really thoughtful thing, and then keep the entire path 100% clear, right? But instead they just shove these bollards in the way, making them super narrow. So it's not really that, like, this is really relaxing to ride down because it's a nice wide path. This can handle a lot more scale. So when you have 100,000 city bike riders out on this beautiful Saturday, it can accommodate that. But it stops being comfortable when there are way too many people on it, right? But largely because there are just tons and tons of pinch points. And for no real good reason. There's also like 12 lanes of highway, you know, next to it. So if they really wanted to just act quickly, they could have just said, all right, you know what? We're gonna set up an extended protected bike lane on the highway with these Jersey barriers, since we have tons of concrete. Apparently New York City has no access to any concrete at all. There's a concrete shortage. I don't know. I feel like that's at least what it appears to be. They don't put down concrete for anything. All they have is paint. It's like they have a giant warehouse of paint, and the warehouse that stores concrete is back ordered for the last 10 years. It's like there's a concrete shortage in the world and they can't get it. So nothing is protected in any way. But take a look. Look at how many of these Jersey barriers. These are these Jersey barriers. These are things that belong on a highway to essentially cordon off a protected space for cyclists. That would make a lot more sense. It's what some of us even thought might happen in the aftermath of the Halloween massacre, or terrorist attack. But instead, this crap came onto the greenway. And that was, and literally, it didn't even look like this. It just was like scattered. It was like they brought on cranes, dropped them randomly at various angles. So it was like a huge pain in the ass to ride through. Now it's like less of a pain in the ass, but it's just an eyesore and it's just a hostile thing. Why do drivers get to go unimpeded? We have to slalom through this crap constantly, right? Let's say for our safety, but there's also things like this that do it intentionally so that cyclists slow down, which I don't disagree with in some ways. But nothing like that. You basically don't see any designs like that on the roadways. You see them all over in the Netherlands. You see many different tools that they're using, various kind of pinch points, raised crosswalks, narrow intersections, things that visually cue you into slowing down and being more careful and mindful. I just watched this great video of 20 is Plenty, where they, in the UK, want to, or they have been, sorry, passing 20 mile an hour, speed limits as a way to sort of improve cycling, right? So they're like, look, when you just go slow, the main thing is like nobody wants to be near a highway or fast moving cars. Okay, thank you, man. Whistle. Whistle, whistle. So you're gonna take a picture? Let's see. So, but when you slow down the traffic, drivers are slower, they're more mindful, and then it attracts a ton of cyclists and pedestrians and all that. So there you can see there's a trillion people waiting in these things at the edges of a highway, flanked by, cars and cyclists taking one of the most heavily used routes in North America during rush hour. But our mayor is for is fighting climate change. That's funny, because there's a highway right here. I'm not sure if you noticed. Take a look at this. This is your climate change action. Apparently it was on the record, the mayor saying that Brad Lander's new reckless driving bill, which I've been following to some extent, but I don't know exactly how far along it is, but I think it's really, it's pretty far along. Basically takes the most dangerous drivers off the road. The ones with the most speeding tickets, I think red light tickets, all these violations, if they have more than 5 in a given, 18-month period, something like that. And they're in the bottom percentile, like bottom 1% or something of drivers, like the worst offenders. Maybe that's how it is. I forget exactly how it's structured, but there's a few variations, I think. Basically, it takes away licenses from people who just regularly violate the most egregious driving laws, right? Like going through red lights and speeding, which I think should be immediate grounds for, all right, you were speeding in near a school. Give me your license for 30 days. That's your punishment. Oh, sorry, is that a problem for you? Well, it's a problem. Speeding near a goddamn school. And maybe you will learn. And then it should be like 3 strikes, and then you just lose your license. That's cool. City bike. So, now this is obviously a little different. This is like taking the most extreme offenders and taking their licenses, which, we got to start somewhere. It is also kind of alarming, to say the least, that because you got to ask, well, wait, what happens today? Because I didn't think that we needed a law, because I figure we have one. It's 2019, and you're saying you can get 25 speeding tickets and 12 red light cameras in a 12-month period, just pay the $50 fines, and continue driving on the streets? You can do that? And yeah, you can. Apparently you can. So that's funny. That's your war on cars. Your war on cars is not a war. The war is like, you have a car? You can do anything you want. You can basically murder people, and we'll just say you didn't see, you couldn't see them. And the police will write your report for you. They'll tell you how to get out of it. By the way, this police car next to me, I keep passing him. It's kind of amusing. Like, I'm going maybe 13 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour. Probably not even that fast. But when you do the math, it's like, if you can average around 10 miles an hour, that means you can do a 5-minute mile. Oh, sorry. Yeah, 5-minute mile. Okay. And a 5-minute mile means, oh, no, sorry, 12. I'm not thinking. No, that's 12 miles an hour. Sorry. 12 miles an hour is 5 minutes a mile, which is kind of like an average speed. It's a decent speed on a straight, flat kind of road. Not particularly challenging to get to those kind of speeds. You're not doing 20, you're doing 12. Right, yeah, 10 miles an hour would be 6 minutes a mile, right, which is also pretty fast, right? So 6 minutes a mile means you can get within 2 miles in 12 minutes. 2 miles is like the average, is like 90% of car trips are like less than 3 miles. It's something like that. Where I'm from, the suburb in Westchester that I'm from, is like 1 square mile. Everybody drives everywhere. Makes no sense. Most insane thing I've ever seen. And you don't realize how insane all this stuff is when you live in it and you don't see alternatives and you don't understand what they could be like. So everybody has SUVs, and then you have car storage in the, in the little town center that has like 12 stores. And of course you need to make sure your car is parked somewhere on the street. It's bizarre. It's so bizarre. The whole thing should be just a pedestrianized zone with more real estate for you know, for economic activity, for sale, for anything, right? Stores, businesses, whatever. Instead, it's like largely used for car storage. Anyway, we're here at 26th Street. And let's see, I'd say we have another 60 seconds before all of these carbon emitting machines get through. One person, one person, one person, one person. An Lexus, one person. And a Toyota, one person. There's two people. Oh, there's a taxi with two people. Vehicle with one person. CC Cruiser. A truck, one person. Ah, it's great. And then all these guys are still going through, even though we have a walk signal. JLU 8286 definitely went through a red light. So this is going to be fun. This emergency vehicle is having trouble getting through without mounting the curb. These guys are all walking on not a sidewalk, because there are 27 trucks blocking it. Holy smokes. This is a bike lane. This is a bike lane. And then I'm gonna ram into this van that is perpendicularly parked, blocking the entire bike lane. I feel like it's a cartoon here. Doink. Just watching YouTube, doing whatever. Thank you. And then JJG4510. I don't know what you're doing. This is a mixing zone here, but you're both in the bike lane and the mixing zone and like half a car length in front of the stop line. So that's great. With no turn signal. I don't know what you're doing. JJG4510 from White Plains. Nice, lovely, lovely suburb. What are you doing? You're turning? Oh yeah, you're turning. You have your pen and paper in hand. He's literally got a legal pad in his hand and a pen. People don't drive. They work. They talk. They watch videos. They entertain themselves. They text. They do all these other things, and then driving is like this distraction to what they actually want to be doing, right? It's one of the things I never really understood. Nobody likes driving. Nobody's like, I just really want to focus on the road and like use my feet on the pedal and put my hands at whatever, 11 and 1 in the position that's correct and like do all this crazy stuff. And this cop is doing, kind of standing here. You know, nobody wants to drive. You look inside, nobody wants to drive, but everybody drives. Man, anyway. I mean, you could argue, well, so self-driving cars, like that's the future, that's what we need, you know, because nobody wants to actually look. I mean, you got these videos of Tesla drivers all like sleeping because the autopilot is so good. And that's kind of like impressive. Certainly impressive. Oh boy. Feel the burn. So it is impressive that, you know, Tesla is at such a level that you really can just fall asleep at the wheel and be filmed. Like, God knows how many times that's happening. Not, ooh, this woman is on the other side here. It should be a 2-lane protected bike lane without this giant line of 200 parked. Sorry, without all this, okay, without all this car storage. Car storage is a city giving up on its most valuable real estate. See the sanitation guy holding the phone. Hello. Oh, God damn it. And that is a mixing zone. That is a mixing zone in action, where you've got a bunch of cars all making a right turn. They're designed, like the design says, yes, we totally block this quote-unquote protected bike lane, and so clearly it's not protected. And that's why I don't understand how DOT like doesn't get this, that these mixing zones don't work. They should all be replaced with concrete extensions that make them protected intersections, so the drivers have to go all the way around and make a 90-degree like turn all the way around to make a right turn or a left turn, so that you're almost 90 degrees with the people or the cyclists that whose path you're trying to cross. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe. Bike Talk.NYC.